Welcome. Today we're diving into the fascinating concept. What if you could talk to your future self? Dr. Evans, could you set the stage for us? What does this idea mean, and why does it spark so much curiosity?
Absolutely. The notion of conversing with your future self touches on psychology, philosophy, and even technology. At its core, it's about bridging the gap between who you are now and who you'll become. This sparks curiosity because it challenges us to reflect on personal growth and decision-making over time.
That's intriguing. Some people journal or use time capsules, but an actual conversation would be far more direct. How does this concept compare with those methods in terms of self-reflection?
Great question. While journaling captures your present thoughts for future review, an interactive conversation introduces feedback and guidance. It's like having a mentor who knows exactly what you'll experience, offering tailored advice that static methods can't provide.
That segues well into the next segment. Let's explore the psychological implications of this hypothetical scenario. If we could really talk to our future selves, what psychological effects might that have? Are there studies that support changes in motivation or decision-making from this kind of time dialogue?
Indeed, research by Dr. Hal Hirschfield at UCLA shows that visualizing your older self can boost long-term planning and savings. By making your future self feel real and relatable, people tend to make choices that align with their long-term interests, reducing procrastination and regret.
That's fascinating. Could this also work in reverse? Might hearing about future regrets from yourself cause anxiety or paralysis, rather than positive change?
That's a valid concern. Some psychologists argue that too much focus on potential mistakes can trigger anxiety or decision fatigue. For example, a study in the Journal of Behavioral Decision-Making found that people given too much future-oriented feedback sometimes avoid risks altogether, stifling growth.
Balancing hope and caution seems crucial. Next, let's discuss how technology might actually enable such future self-conversations. Given rapid progress in AI and virtual reality, is it possible to simulate conversations with our future selves today? What technologies are being developed in this area?
We're surprisingly close. AI-powered avatars can now integrate your current goals, behaviors, and predicted outcomes. For instance, the MIT Media Lab developed Future Me, where users send emails to their future selves. But now, startups are expanding this to interactive VR avatars that respond in real time based on your data.
But how accurate or meaningful can these simulations be? Can an algorithm truly predict what our future selves would say, especially as unexpected events shape our lives?
That's the crux of the challenge. While AI can extrapolate trends from your digital footprint, it struggles with unpredictable life events, think global pandemics or personal revelations. However, by combining big data with adaptive learning, these systems can offer surprisingly insightful, if not perfectly accurate, guidance.
Let's shift to broader implications. How might society change if everyone could routinely consult their future selves? If talking to your future self became widespread, what kind of societal effects might we expect? Could this reshape how we approach education, careers, or even relationships?
Widespread adoption could foster a culture of foresight, where people make more conscientious decisions about health, finances, and social responsibility. For example, a 2022 Pew survey found that 68% of people would change career paths if given more future insight, implying major shifts in workforce planning.
But are there ethical risks? Could such technology reinforce fatalism, or even be misused for manipulation by corporations or governments?
Absolutely, ethical concerns abound. Predictive feedback could nudge individuals toward conformity or exploit vulnerabilities for targeted advertising. Establishing transparent algorithms and personal data protections will be essential to prevent misuse and ensure these tools empower, rather than constrain, personal agency.
That's a vital point. As we close, let's reflect on the enduring appeal of connecting with our future selves and what it teaches us about self-understanding across time. Welcome to the show. Today, we're diving into the tangled world of translation. Honestly, is translating a sentence just a matter of swapping out words, or is it more like that childhood game Telephone, where the message gets funnier and weirder with every pass?
Absolutely more like telephone. Literal translations can lead to some epic misfires. For example, the classic out of sight, out of mind once became invisible idiot in a computer translation. Machines and humans both stumble over cultural references, idioms, and even sarcasm.
So, if I ask a machine to translate break a leg into German, am I telling someone to visit the hospital?
Pretty much. It would translate it to something like be in Brecken, which is just confusing and slightly threatening. That's why context is king, and why translators often feel like linguistic detectives searching for intent as much as meaning.
Sounds like every translation is a tiny mystery novel. Speaking of sleuthing, let's talk about the tech side. How do machines handle all this ambiguity?
Machine translation is powered by neural networks trained on enormous datasets, think millions of documents. But even then, they sometimes confuse apple the fruit with apple the company, so you might end up with a recipe for iPhones instead of pie.
That would be one crunchy dessert. Is there a way machines can avoid such delicious disasters?
Well, advanced models like Google's transformer architecture use context and attention mechanisms, which is their way of paying more attention. They remember entire sentences instead of getting distracted like a goldfish at a disco.
So machines are getting smarter, but are they ready to handle, say, Shakespeare or stand-up comedy?
Not quite yet. Humor, puns, and poetry are their kryptonite. A 2022 study found machine translations of jokes had a 75% chance of being more confusing than funny. You wouldn't want your wedding vows to sound like a tax form, would you?
Only if I want my spouse to fall asleep during the ceremony. Let's pivot to the human side of translation for a second.
Human translators are basically stand-up comedians with dictionaries. They don't just swap words, they rewrite, adapt, and sometimes invent entirely new jokes to keep the spirit alive. Imagine translating knock-knock jokes into Mandarin. It's a test of both wit and willpower.
I can barely tell a joke in English, let alone in 2 languages. Are there any techniques pros use to avoid unintentional comedy, gold, or disasters?
Definitely. Translators rely on something called dynamic equivalence, prioritizing the effect over the literal meaning. It's like swapping out a baseball reference for a cricket one in India, so the punchline still lands even if the sport changes.
So, in a way, translators are cultural ambassadors and professional improv artists rolled into one. Have you ever heard of a translation going hilariously wrong despite best efforts?
Oh, countless times. My favorite is when Pepsi's Come Alive with the Pepsi generation ended up in Chinese as Pepsi brings your ancestors back from the grave. That's a family reunion nobody expected.
That's marketing with a supernatural twist. Now, let's look ahead. Can tech ever fully replace the human touch?
AI is catching up, but until a robot can appreciate dad jokes or mispronounce French cheese on purpose, humans still have the edge. A recent MIT survey found that even the best AI translations still miss 30% of emotional nuance, especially in love letters, rap lyrics, and, yes, memes.
So, if I want to confess my love through a Spanish poem or send a meme across the globe, I should trust a human, not an algorithm?
Exactly. Until AI can understand why did the chicken cross the road, is still funny after a century, human translators will keep saving us from unintentionally proposing marriage to our boss via email.
That's a relief. As we wrap up, any advice for avoiding translation mishaps besides using interpretive dance?
When in doubt, always double-check with a native speaker or, better yet, bring cookies. Laughter might be universal, but mistranslations are forever.
Wise words. Thanks for joining us on this journey through the joyful chaos of translation. Tune in next time, and remember, when lost in translation, at least you'll have a good story to tell. Welcome to Undercover Habits. Today, we're diving into things everyone does but denies, starting with talking to ourselves. Dr. Patel, why do so many of us narrate our lives like we're starring in a budget-friendly sitcom?
Oh, absolutely. And some of us even deserve Emmys for Best Internal Monologue. Psychologically, self-talk helps with problem-solving and emotional regulation. Think of it as free, 24/7 therapy without the copay or the awkward couch.
And yet, if someone catches us mid-discussion with a toaster, we act like we're rehearsing for Hamlet. Is there any evidence that talking aloud actually boosts our brain power, or are we just auditioning for the next Marvel movie?
Great question. Studies from the University of Michigan found that verbalizing tasks like saying milk, eggs, regret, bread at the store improves memory by up to 30%. So, technically, muttering to yourself is like installing extra RAM in your brain.
So next time I'm arguing with my GPS, I'll just say I'm optimizing my neural network. Genius. let's transition to another habit we all pretend not to do. Let's talk about the digital elephant in the room, social media creeping. Dr. Patel, why do we all become Sherlock Holmes after a first date, scrolling deeper than the Mariana Trench?
Well, curiosity didn't just kill the cat, it made us all amateur detectives. Research from Pew shows 82% of adults admit to checking up on people online just to see. We want connection, but without the risk of accidentally liking a 2009 vacation photo.
The horror of the accidental, like truly the modern walk of shame. Do you think this digital sleuthing is healthy, or are we just fueling our inner creeper?
A bit of both. Some psychologists argue it's harmless info gathering, like background checks but with more dog pictures. But excessive stalking can morph into comparison anxiety. Instagram envy is real and has been linked to lower self-esteem in studies.
So basically, scrolling is fine, but when you start mapping out your ex's cousin's birthday party guest list, you might need a hobby. Speaking of hobbies, let's explore another universally denied pastime. Now, let's address the pandemic we've all faced since childhood, making up excuses to skip plans. Dr. Patel, why are we so creative when it comes to not leaving the couch?
It's a survival instinct. Our brains value downtime, so when faced with fun that involves pants, we improvise. A 2022 survey found 63% of adults admit to faking illness or inventing elaborate stories to dodge socializing. It's like improv theater, but with more sweatpants.
And the guilt. We'll concoct tales about sick goldfish or urgent laundry emergencies. Is there a psychological upside to this, or are we just lazy liars?
There's a self-care angle. Setting boundaries is healthy, even if your excuse involves a haunted dishwasher. But chronic avoidance can lead to isolation. So, like all things, moderation is key. Plus, your friends will eventually suspect your pet parrot can't really get the flu.
So, honesty is the best policy unless you have a really, really good fake cough. Which brings us to our final, most relatable secret behavior. Let's finish with a classic, pretending to understand something when we're totally lost. Dr. Patel, why do we all nod along when someone says, it's just quantum entanglement, obviously?
Because nobody wants to be the lone confused meerkat in a room full of physics majors. Social psychology calls this pluralistic ignorance. We fake comprehension, so we don't look clueless, even though everyone else is equally lost.
And yet, we'd rather Google how to spell entanglement later than ask for clarification. Any tips for breaking the cycle of polite confusion?
Absolutely. Try the explain it like I'm five trick. Ask for a simple breakdown. Studies show people are more engaged when explanations come with analogies, like comparing quantum physics to tangled headphones.
That's brilliant and definitely less intimidating than pretending you've read all of War and Peace. Dr. Patel, thanks for helping us unmask these secret habits. Tune in next week when we'll discuss the science of why socks go missing